Hello everybody, good evening. Do a evening update on what's happening in Leilani Estates and Lanipuna subdivision. So some interesting things have been happening today. Fisher's been opening up. We'll go over the map system of what's been opening up. Leilani Estates went under a mandatory evacuation under the county of Hawaii. So police department went in right at around 6 o'clock. Also there was a lot of cinder rocks being thrown all over the subdivision in Leilani, and it was seen all over. But we also have we're gonna give a little update of what's happening. Here we go, everybody. Welcome to Philip Dr. Phil show.
I'm not a doctor, I just play one on Facebook, right? Alright guys, so here's the map that was put out earlier today, and it shows the big flow from last night. There's this big white arrow that's coming over here that went really fast. And what I was originally saying was that we thought that might have been a pond overflow, but it turns out that the vent actually opened up and maybe just focused the lava coming out of one spot instead of the other ones that were happening. I heard that this fountain over here died down while this one increased, and the flow came out kind of shortly afterwards. And for the last day, that's kind of what we saw was most activity over here, right? At 7, 8, and 24. And most of the rest of it had kind of died off a little bit, and then we were kind of wondering what's going on, maybe thinking that we might have a sign of something changing. But since then, the report that came out from HVO at 4 o'clock today has mentioned that most of these have actually reactivated. So let me read the list here. It says, as of the 1 o'clock flight, Fisher's 8 down here, 18 all the way over here, 20, 22, 6, 13, which are here, 6 and 13, and 721 have all reactivated, with these two, 721 having the highest fountains. The fountain over here from 22, because it had kind of died off for a little while, kind of drained the lava tube to the ocean, so the ocean entries kind of stopped or have been really dying off in the last couple of days. But there's more lava coming in through it now. We know it just probably won't get there until sometime tomorrow or late tomorrow, depending how fast it's going through there.
So 22, with my knowledge, this evening is starting to pick up again, and the ocean entry. So we went down Pohoiki this afternoon, and the ocean entry was starting to diminish, but there was still some plume activity going into the ocean. So it's multiple plumes, 2 different plumes. But yeah, Fisher 22 reactivating. I mean, it's putting a punch also. 18 is the furthest east, right?
Yeah, that's well. So yeah, close to yeah.
So that one got reactivated also. So you know, all these fishers today was pretty much in the morning started to be stagnant a little bit.
It seemed like it. Yeah,
it's starting to slow down and then build up pressure again and started going again.
Yeah. So we don't know exactly what happened under there, but certainly the plumbing right under this area is dynamic, and it's been changing. Yeah, enough so that one fountain dies off and another one starts up, and that one dies down, and the last one starts back up, and so it must be pretty interesting under there, but we have no idea what it actually looks like. But they are connected, and they're not that far down. One thing I wanted to mention about what Ikaika said about the ocean entry. Even when the lava's not going in there, it's going to put out a lot of steam and still some of that laze. Yeah. So the laze is not going to decrease this quickly, so it's probably going to keep going until the ocean entry is all the way down, which might probably take a while still. So also on the map, we probably want to talk about what's happened at PGV, which was important yesterday. You can see the first flow that went to PGV is this one right over here, and got about this far and then stalled. It did cover one portion of a well pad over here in this area right here. And we haven't heard any reports of anything major going on, maybe some minor stuff happening, but I haven't heard a confirmation of that myself.
So this flow this morning, 8:30, it crossed Pohoiki Road into this vacant area right here. The concern that's happening right now is if this flow will take out the Helco power plant right on the side of the road on Highway 132, the substation. That's a possibility, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And also the new flow that is coming around.
Yeah, so this flow, I from a report says this flow front is actually stalled just across the road over here. But the flow, you know, I believe this channel is still moving. I'm not sure if it's this channel or the one next to it, but there's lava coming from this direction still. And it seems like it's flowing over along this boundary over here now. So when we talk about these blue lines existing in the map, once the lava flow actually appears, then they basically create a new little valley. There should be a blue line right along the edge of this thing all the way down as well. Right? So that's a place lava's going to want to go along the edge and flow all the way down. So that's kind of the new path for the flow that comes this direction, is closer to the Y and closer to the power station. Absolutely.
So, Micah, these streets, if we go, so we have Mohala, Kaupili would be underneath here, then Ho'okupu, which is covered, Makamai, then Luana, and then Nohea. So as far as tonight, it looked like a bunch of flows had covered a lot of these streets that wasn't covered, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And what we've noticed also is the fountains coming from presumably number 7 right around here have gotten quite tall, right? We were able to find, I was standing at the barrier of the restricted zone at Moku Street, and we had froths of pumice like this size falling out. Yeah, this is kind of a medium-sized one, but there were some kind of golf ball sized things. It's really light, really frothy lava. When we get something this frothy, that's essentially like the Hawaiian pumice, then we know that the fountain had to be at least 400 feet high. So these things are really hard to measure, right? To measure how high a fountain's going up, and it's changing all the time. But when we see something like this fall out of the sky, then we know that it had been a fairly high fountain. Not as high as the ones we've had in the past, but it's still starting to get higher and higher from what we had before. Right, just in the last couple of days, it's been falling from the sky, all downwind of the area, and downwind has been most of the Leilani area over here. Yeah.
So these cinder cinder rocks here has been witnessed to be all over Leilani, all on the streets, everywhere.
Yeah. So if you were to be driving through there now, you'd feel it crunching under your tires. You'd feel it falling on your windshield, on the roof of your car, and probably not that great, huh?
The thing, this rock right there feels like it weighs like a feather.
Yeah. It's
really light,
these
rocks get dispersed into the air, and the wind actually takes it for a ride all over Leilani Estates.
Yeah, it sounds like hail falling through the forest out there. Yeah, it's actually frozen lava rocks, not frozen ice, right? So one more thing I wanted to mention is that we've noticed the areas down here have been steaming quite a lot. So we're not sure if that's going to be a place that lava comes out as well, but they're showing signs of hotter ground and more activity. So we better be prepared for this unzipping of the rift zone, marching farther up rift, to keep happening actually. So that's probably that's definitely a possibility here pretty soon.
All right, gang.
So we can look at the webcam to kind of look at what's happening with this flow right over here. So we're going to be looking from the PGV in this direction over here, right?
Looking south.
Yeah, that's right. So, oops. Come on. There it is. So there's the webcam from, I'm not sure how long ago, 15 minutes ago. And what you see is the main fissure over here. The first PGV flow is this black one in this corner right here. The second one is the one that's still glowing with all these spots in the cracks. And right above that's the main channel, which is feeding this area. So I'm not sure if this is kind of behind there, feeding the front, but this is where the bulk of the lava is traveling right now, is still to the north towards the Y junction. Right, there's something happening over here in the south also, putting lava down. It's hard to tell how big that is. I'll just update it. So yeah, it looks pretty similar. It looks like there's a big bend right over here. That's the interesting thing to keep an eye on, where this lava is going to go from here. And looking at that, we probably want to go back to our map, which is here. Oh, come on, map. And now we can look at the boundary of the flow right here and see where might this lava actually go. So that's what I'm talking about, going along the edge here and coming up towards a Y junction, right? So somewhere through here is where all the lava is flowing.
So the possibility of the Y junction being covered is pretty high because there's a lot of volume coming out of these eruptions that happen later this afternoon and into this evening. And I have some earlier. I posted some overflights from a friend who was up in the plane right before dusk, and there was actually a huge flow headed towards the Y. So you know, anybody down in Kapo, you know, be prepared of evacuating soon.
Right, because of the road being cut off, especially. That's what, yeah. Lava flow is not going to Kapoho directly right there. This flow is still projected to go around outside of Nana Valley and to the north through farmland inhabited, unfortunately, but off south of Hawaiian beaches eventually, if it keeps going on that long.
So, Laura, there's a lot of the fissures that are active right now is pretty much fissures that went inactive and reactivated today. So there's about how much fissures got reactivated today again?
Oh, I mean, look at the list again. But so a couple of them they group together. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 have reactivated.
6 fissures have reactivated. But also there was people that was saying
maybe 5.
There was something happening above 130. So I got a text from a couple of my friends saying that there could be something happening above 130, and we went out maybe about an hour ago to investigate, and no, there's nothing that is happening above 130 right now. But you know, people could be mistaken because of the glow from the eruptions now is kind of going so far that it's actually reflecting off the clouds above 130, so that could be it. There is no eruptions above 130 as of right now.
Yeah, so let's see. There was a couple pictures that people found useful. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is from my cousin Malia Kavalo, all in Kalapana, what is the deflation and inflation status on today's flows?
Okay, that sounds like a little confusing. There's inflation and inflation at the summit of the volcano and on the rift zone. Let's look at that first. Okay, here we are. This is a plot from the summit. So you can see the big explosion that happened earlier this morning, and lots of little ones in between. You can kind of see these are getting more frequent, right? There's a bunch more spikes, little bumps on the graph here, and not so many back in this area over here, right? Looking at the past whole week, here's a signal of the whole past week. You can see we've had some drops, right? Big ones, but you can see here towards the end it's getting a lot more frequent, right? So it seems like the conduit walls, the throat of Halemaumau is starting to break off more and more, and every time it gets a little bit clogged with all that powdered rock, it's going to basically cough it back out, and that's what these little ash explosions are. If you get enough of a clog, then you're going to get more steam buildup and a bigger explosion like the big ones we're seeing over here. So it would not be surprising to see these explosions pick up in frequency, right, and possibly in intensity as well. What's been happening at the summit with the size of Halemaumau is also very interesting. Let me pull up that picture for you guys. Where is it? Right down here. All right, so this is a view taken from space showing Halemaumau crater within the main caldera, and this black spot is the actual, what we were calling the overlook crater, you know, the hole that the lava lake was in before. This is already bigger than the first picture, which was back before this began around May 3rd. So it's already grown here. It's crumbling in this edge. And a picture here on the 25th, you can see we have a new pit on the north side of Halemaumau, and our whole east side looks like it's sagging, ready to fall in as well. So you can see this crater is growing in size substantially with these explosion events. And in case people don't realize, the size of Halemaumau itself, as it currently stands right here, that's the result of the 1924 explosions, the ones that lasted 2.5 weeks. So it wouldn't be unheard of to have these explosions continue to the point where this pit opens to that size, right, half-mile across. So one thing to be concerned about is that the bigger the pit gets, the bigger the rockfall that it takes to clog it, right? So then you might have a potential for a even bigger explosion after that. So that's why we think that there's a potential for these to increase in intensity as time goes on.
Okay, I have a question. A lot of questions out here right now of, there was a huge explosion about 10 minutes ago. As far as what we know, we really don't know what that explosion was. It was heard in Nanavale, Kapoho, any place else. But it could be, we really don't know what it could be investigating. Could be finding out from some of our first responders, but we really don't know what those explosions was. It could be degassing again because of Fissure 18 is open again, and that's the one that was actually degassing a lot earlier.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So yeah, that's probably the best theory. Is that since 18 is reactivated, more gas is coming out, and it's starting to make that booming sound that was so consistent during the first week of the eruption, right? That we've been so happy to have missing the last few days, right? So it started again. It probably won't last forever. It would probably won't last as long as the last time. It's probably, if you imagine taking a bottle of soda pop and then it's already open, right? So it's not that busy, but you can still shake it and get a whole bunch more gas out of it, right? So you can basically reactivate the gas by stirring it up or by moving the crack open or close a little more and just changing the dynamics inside of the earth like that. So that's probably what it was, yeah.
So that's what we think, just off the top of our head, because of Fissure 18 reactivating, that was the one that was doing all the degassing earlier in this eruption.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And that could be it. But
yeah.
What is the latest on we're not too sure about PGV. They're being super quiet about stuff happening on there, but we can get some information later on, some solid information.
Yeah, and there is an ash cloud at the summit as well, but it's probably nothing that was heard in Kapoho, right? That's something different.
So there's the chances of lava flowing into Nanavale Way.
Well, it's possible, unfortunately, but it's not going to happen immediately, right? Because if you look at the way that the land sits, looking at the blue lines, the area between those are the high points. There's a big ridge that sits right here, right along 132 by PGV. So this flow that's coming now is going to keep turning around this direction and try to get towards that Y. And once it gets that way, it's going to stay on that side of the ridge and then curve around it going up over here. So there's kind of a funnel almost, right? That funnels all the lava towards this direction over here. So the caveat and the problem being, if the lava flow builds up tall enough, then it can fill in this little valley, and then if it starts jumping over here, that's when the valley would be in trouble. For now, that hasn't happened. This is actually a pretty big feature on the land, so it would probably take a while. It wouldn't happen immediately. Yeah. There would be enough warning.
If it keeps on going that way and stalling out and suddenly creating a new flow on next to it, and stalls out and keeps another flow next to it and stalls out, eventually it could reach Nanavale, but that would be a long way down the road.
Yeah, it would be at least a week away. Yeah,
so we would know what's going on. So as far as Nanavale right now, you guys kind of out of the woods for lava flows, but in the same token, you guys going to be pretty close to these eruptions where the CO2, SO2 and the the gases from the lava could affect you.
Yeah, that's right. So, more questions? Or
any questions?
One more picture.
Any questions?
So, this picture has been useful for a lot of people to kind of get a view from the ocean of what the eruption might look like. So up here's Leilani, and here's our fissure system, right? The fissure 22 is up here, and these are the big lava flow that was active, putting lava into the ocean entry over here. Over here. Everyone's been asking, where exactly is this, right? And if you look real close down here, you can see the shoreline of Mackenzie State Park. So that's right over here. And just to the east of that is where the closest margin of the ocean entries begins.
So also, we just was talking about this day as a question, and just was talking about it. Why does it get so much more insane at night? And we just were talking about it. Could it be the moon? Could it be the moon, doing a gravity pull, so to increase lava flows in the eruption area? Sometimes it's like tides, and I would say yeah.
Yes, I mean we definitely know that there is an effect, you know, of the tides, sun and the moon. The effect on lava is not as strong as on water, and it kind of depends on what balance the lava actually is in, right? So if you imagine something like a seesaw that's like perfectly balanced on the sides, then you can drop like a pebble on one side, like a small force, and tip it one way or the other, right? It has to be at that perfect balance for that to be the case. If it's all pushed one way already, and you're trying to push the pebble and put the seesaw back the other direction, you're not going to have enough force to do that, right? So it kind of depends, you know. We've thought that possibly when you have a lava lake, that you might be able to measure or see this effect. We don't know that we can actually see it in fountains. It might actually happen, but there's so much other stuff going on. And the forces of the magma breaking through the rock and pushing to the surface are so huge compared to the tides that we usually kind of discount that and say, well, it could be happening, but it's not nearly as important as what else is happening. So my instinct would be that the reason that the output went down and it came back up was not the moon. I mean, it could have been, we don't know, but my guess would be actually some rearrangement of the cracks underground and how the magma is coming up through those cracks. And seeing as there's more cracks opening up, cracks are steaming, the magma is actually moving to the southwest, migrating along the rift, that seems more likely to me.
So, another thing too, Avery, where you guys live down in Pohoiki, you guys okay? A lot of the flows that was headed east of Pohoiki kind of stalled out. But new updates we probably can help you out on that. Now we'll go to the end of we're not too sure right now, Melanie, where lava. So she's asking if lava got to the end of Nohea on the Kahukai side.
No,
Not yet.
No.
Not yet.
But it's moving from that intersection. You can see the flow. The river kind of points right down a street, and it kind of bends over, but it's still spilling over and coming down a street, up the street, I should say. It's uphill. It's coming uphill towards where you'd be looking from. So it's not there yet, but it doesn't look good for that area, unfortunately.
And how long do you estimate it would take the quickest for the flow to reach Wawa Road? It will take a while. You know, because of the flows, the extent of how far the flows are at, and just the steepest line of descent. It's not really steep on that side, but you know, it'll take quite, you know, almost a week probably to get there and make an established flow.
Yeah. So this is an old map, but it's useful because it actually shows a wider field of view, right? So you can ignore the red stuff. Let's look at just the blue lines. And here's where lava flow is right now. So you can kind of see the path all the way. It's a long way to get up to, you know, this doesn't even show the coastline up there, right? A lot farther than the distance we had to go to the southeast of the coast, maybe at least twice as far, right? And not nearly as steep, right? So that's when we start, you know, if it's not as steep, then we really would like the flow to be channeled and kind of stay in that path and kind of move quickly in that direction as opposed to stopping and spreading out and then changing the terrain and then maybe complicating things even further and causing more trouble in this area.
So as far as Kupono Street, we really don't know what's going on right now, but it is still erupting out of Kupono Street, which is Fissure 24 or Fissure 8.
I think it's 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 8. Yeah, maybe 20. Yeah, so it's kind of hard to tell these apart when they start
7 and 8
erupting right next to each other. Yeah.
So PGV again, we really don't know what's going on. It's behind closed doors.
But we're all still breathing over here. You can see that for sure.
Oh. Can't see this.
How's do you think Halimama lava came out yet?
I don't have any of that data, but I don't believe so. And what we have heard is that there may be other magma in the rift zone that got pulled into the party as well, maybe from under Maka'apui. If that's true, then we might see the shift of lava to Maka'apui first before we see it shifting to Halemaumau. And the last Maka'apui eruption was 1965. So not quite as old as the 55 lava we saw at the beginning of this eruption, but you might see some change in the kind of lava coming out. It might be too hard to tell without actually doing a chemistry in it, so I'm not sure that we'll be able to see that without the help of the USGS scientists.
Alright, so this is our evening update. with Dr. Phil and myself, and we'll be giving you guys updates tomorrow morning. I know there's tons of questions. I know you don't like that descent line. Could it hit to Kapo? Yes, it could.
Yeah.
But you know, it could go anywhere right now because there's so much lava that is coming out of this system.
Yeah, it would have to do some work to get to Kapoho, right? The flow coming out of the ground where it is now doesn't really want to go to Kapoho that easily. I mean, maybe if you pile up stuff over here and jump over to this line, maybe. It would be much easier to actually have the rift zone push open underground and open over here in Kapoho. That's probably the bigger threat. And if that doesn't happen now, that's something that happens on the rift zone, you know, fairly often, yeah. One thing that's come up, one thing that we were talking about last night is like how often do eruptions happen on this part of the rift zone? And
Pretty often.
yeah, the research that we found was, you know, the average for the last 1,500 years or so is about every 14 years this thing erupts. Yeah, so it's been a lot longer than that this time. It's not like it's overdue because there wasn't any pressure building here. It's been erupting at the summit. But we should expect these things fairly often, unfortunately, yes.
Also, Damien Tucker, the lava flows near the Elko sub transfer station. It's pretty close. It's probably like a couple hundred yards. Well, I'd say a couple hundred yards. But this new flow is the one that is kind of everybody's watching because the older one kind of didn't stall out. It's still active right now. It's still moving, but moving very slow. But this new flow that is coming through from this evening's eruption is moving pretty fast. So with that being said, everybody, you know, we like to say aloha and everybody have a good night, and we'll be coming back tomorrow giving updates about what's going on tomorrow. And before we end, we like to say
Stay classy.
stay classy.
Huna.
All right.